Hi everyone, and welcome back to Financial Basics, where we make money grow with you. Today I want to be talking about a legacy folder, which is just about making it easier for the people you care about. What is a legacy folder? It's just a collection of documents, critical information, or instructions, and that somebody would need in the event of you passing. The main purpose of it is to make things easier for your loved ones, helping them manage your affairs, access potentially important accounts, even retirement accounts or investments, and to also potentially carry out any wishes that you have without confusion or delay. It also just delegates that responsibility, makes it very clear who should be doing what. And at a time when you've died and the people in your life are mourning you, so it's really important to make it as easy as possible for them, at least this component of it. And the key thing to remember here, these legacy folders hold the keys to your kingdom. They are super important. All of your sensitive information is tied into this folder and these documents. So it's really important to be very clear on controlling that and who has access, who not. So the other thing to obviously take into consideration is just the security elements of this. So in terms of format, you can do a physical binder. Ideally, if you're doing a physical binder, keep it in a fireproof safe and make multiple copies of it in different locations and shared with different individuals. I've seen somebody do a password where they distributed parts of the password out to different people, and then those people had to come together and combine the password to actually get access. But things like that can be done. I'm not saying do that, I'm just saying that is what I have seen other people potentially do. You can also have a secure drive, a digital shared drive or folder that you're just digitally sharing with multiple people. The other suggestion that I've seen quite a bit and other people do is add a recording, either a voice recording or a video recording, where you're actually going through what you want done, how things are going to be handled, right? Or how you want them to be handled, what your wishes are. And you can do both. In terms of storing it, you can store it with a lawyer, you can store it with a safe, either in your house or a safety deposit box. But either way, the key thing is you want to make sure that the important people in your life have access to it if something were to happen to you. So to go through what's going to be in this folder, and the key thing I'll mention here just before we start is this is a list of the ideal or what should be in there. It's not all inclusive. There might be things that I'm missing that you think should be included, because this is an extremely personal thing. You can also get legal advice or even a financial advisor to speak about what should be in here. And then the other thing to note is it's just completely up to the individual. But also something is better than nothing. And just from the other side of it, this can be quite daunting to put all of this together in a single folder or a single shared drive. But the key thing to note is starting this, even with just one or two documents, is actually a fantastic first step, and it makes it easier to build onto that. It makes it easier to keep going. The other thing to note, and this is just personal experience or people I've spoken to as well, having this folder also helps you, even while you're still alive, in terms of knowing what accounts you have, access to those accounts, where the passwords are. So all of these little bits of information potentially are lying around everywhere, and you can actually just put them all into a single location. So legal documents, you obviously want your will in there. You want any trust documents. If you have any sort of power of attorney things where you want to appoint somebody, if something were to happen to you, God forbid, then obviously that's something to think about as well. If you have any healthcare concerns or medical preferences like life support or do not resuscitate, requirements, then that can also be put in this folder or document. Guardianship directives, if you have children, what's going to be happening to them. And then in terms of insurance claims, legal claims, any sort of financial stuff, you can also put your marriage certificates for your partner, divorce, if you're no longer with your partner, or if you've remarried, whatever the case may be, death certificates, birth certificates, all of these things can sort of go into this folder as well. It just makes it very clear, all of these together. The main aim here, and this is the reason why you want to include it, is these documents give your loved ones clear authority and instructions, minimizes disputes, minimizes any sort of delays. It just makes it really easy for them. The next thing to look at is just financial information. So any bank account details, any banks, any beneficiaries, all of these things can be included. What your retirements are, your 401ks, pensions, ISAs, any accounts, financial accounts that you have, the details of that account should be included, your account numbers, your policy numbers, all of these things. Life insurance policies, make it as easy as possible for your loved ones to get access to that money ultimately. And that's just the policy number, contact details for that company, even call that company up, find out, if I were to die right now, what needs to happen, what would my partner or next in line, what would they need, your beneficiaries need to actually do step by step. And you can actually just document that and include that in this folder to make it as easy as possible. If there's any debts or liabilities, or even ongoing liabilities like a mortgage, any credit cards, any student loans, anything like that, that's sort of sitting there, just having that in one folder, one document. You don't necessarily have to include details like what you currently owe on those things. You can just say, I have this account and I pay this amount every month, or this is the contact details for that company to get more information once I've passed on that account to close it off and close everything up. Any outstanding bills or subscriptions, your utilities, your mobile phone, Netflix, gym, all of those things can also be included here. And again, single place, all consolidated, fantastic for your own usage as well as for next of kin or beneficiaries that potentially need access to that information to close those things up and wrap everything up. Otherwise, 6 months from now, they could be sitting there and this bill keeps going off of your account, even though you're trying to close things, whatever the case, right? So it can actually go quite a complicated process if you don't have everything in order. The other thing to potentially look at is just tax records, and you can speak to a financial advisor as well, depending on where you live, on the terms for that. So how long of a record should you go back? That's obviously something, but having that as well for like estate taxes, for audits, for any of that where that information might be requested, and it just makes all of this just makes it really easy to sort of settle your estate, avoid any missed bills, and file the taxes, file your final taxes. An enormous amount of money in the US is sort of forgotten, and there's two potential reasons to have these accounts sit without any activity or just sort of sit dormant. And the one reason is these people have died and the account has just got lost in that process where it's not accessed by the loved ones because they didn't even know about it. And then the second thing is if you potentially have lost this account, right? So you've just lost track of the login or the details, whatever it is, and it was a couple $1,000 or pounds, like 10 years ago, and you just don't know where all the login details are or how to even get access to that information. Obviously, it's a lot easier today to try and track these things, particularly with everything being digital, but certainly with $1.65 trillion in 2023 sitting in accounts that have supposedly been forgotten, it's definitely worthwhile to sort of have all of the financial information in one place. digital life and online accounts. So have a password manager, master key, or a list of logins for your email, your social media, streaming services, cloud storage, online banking, all of these things. You can just have, make sure that in this folder, you can have one location where your beneficiaries or loved ones can access this information and start closing everything up. And then you can even include instructions as well for how you want your social media to be closed off or closed up. And then the other thing is just IP as well, so intellectual property. And you don't want to lose access here. There's value in the digital assets that you have and the digital presence that you have, whether that's intellectual property, domain registrations, blogs, your own website, your Facebook, all of your pictures, all your memories, everything is there. You might want to make sure that those get passed on to next of kin. Medical history and key contacts. So what medicine you're currently on, if any, if you have any allergies, any health insurance information, because if you're incapacitated in some way and you can't give that information yourself, you want other people around you able to pass that information on. And then the names and contact information for your doctors, and then medical history. So those are also things that could be included in this folder. And that just ensures that if there's any reason that you're potentially just incapacitated as opposed to outright death, then obviously it drastically reduces the risk of medical errors or any sort of confusion around this. Funeral and burial instructions. Obviously, if you have any specific preferences, then you can state that in these documents. Prepaid funeral arrangements, you might even have a policy that covers funeral costs. You might want to include that as well. Obituary information, if you've got suggested wording or photos or anything, any sort of memorial key life events that you want to include. You can even go into a lot more detail like music, readings, ceremony requests, location on where you might want to ultimately be buried if that's what you want to do, or where you want your ashes to be released or let go. And then if you have any organ donation wishes as well, then that's also something that you can include in this folder. And your grieving loved ones are going through an extremely tough time. And they might not even be, like, they could be children at this point. You might be in a situation where you're giving these instructions to a 10-year-old. And in that situation, I think it's obviously fantastic to just have everything crystal clear, have this handed out to multiple people. And it just, at a time when stress is super high, really fantastic to actually just make it clear what's needed and what's required and what you want. And it gives an enormous amount of confidence and additional support to the people that you care about, knowing that they are filling out your wishes, knowing that they are doing what you would have wanted. And the unknowns just disappear, and it just makes that whole process so much easier. Next one, home and property information. So any home titles or lease information, any mortgage information, as I mentioned earlier, utilities, service providers, water, electricity, internet, all of these things, the landscaper, somebody comes around and waters your plants. All of that can actually be documented here. Any security codes, any alarm information, any safe combinations, all can be included here. If you have spare keys and you're keeping that somewhere as well, that can also be included. Vehicle titles, maintenance records for those vehicles, especially if those vehicles are likely to get sold. having those records as well handy would be super useful. And it just makes it easier for inheritance or for clearing out the property. Business and employment information. So if you are a business owner or you're currently working, have the employment details, any benefits associated with that employment, unpaid bonuses, and key contacts, right? So have the manager or your manager's manager, whatever the case may be, just have their details somewhere. And if you own your own business, then just have a business succession plan. Who's going to be taking over? Who's going to be responsible for what? And are you going to just wrap the business up? And if that's the intention, that's the plan, then say that as well. Client contacts, any money that's outstanding, then you can also keep that somewhere, or at a minimum, even if you're keeping that separate to this particular folder, have a way for them to access this information. And as I mentioned again, intellectual property rights, patents, copyrights, creative assets, anything like that as well. It prevents revenue loss, it preserves the work that you've done, and it honors any contractual obligations that you or your company had. And then personal wishes and messages, and as I mentioned, you can do this with video or audio recordings, just letters to your family members, even an explanation of the decisions that are in your will. It just helps with confusion or any hurt feelings. And then life lessons, stories, reflections. You can say whatever you want in this folder or in these videos or recordings. It's completely up to you, and it just gives you that freedom to really express anything that you want to express. And then you can also do an ethical will. You can also talk about your values, your hopes for the next generation, life philosophy. All of these things can be included in here. And your loved ones will actually really appreciate it if they had this information. I can imagine somebody, your life partner, watching those videos even years from now. And it just provides that emotional closure, and it helps you be remembered in your own words, where it's not somebody else saying, I knew Richard from through this and this and this, or whatever the case, how you guys met. And they can say their life stories and their experiences of you, but it's completely different if you're doing it in your own words. Tell your story. And then emergency contacts and advisors as well, just something to think about. Executor of the will, any lawyers, financial advisors, insurance agents, family members, trusted friends, even a spiritual advisor or clergy. Any of these could be included in this document as well. And then instructions just for the actual legacy folder itself. Do not forget to tell your loved ones where the folder is located. Is it in a safe? Is it in a drawer? Is it in an online vault? Whatever the case may be, you need to make sure that somebody else has access to it. And you can't just do this with your partner, because there is always the scenario where something could happen to you and your partner simultaneously, or in like the same car accident, or if a plane crashes, whatever the case, where something might happen to both of you. And then in that situation, you want somebody else to be able to access it. And then also when to open it. Make it clear, give instructions on when to actually look at this folder. Is it upon death? Is it upon serious illness? Is it upon incapacity? So under what circumstances should you be looking at this folder? Please support my channel by liking, subscribing, or sharing. And if you have any questions or requests, please email me at financialbasicsabc@gmail.com. See you next time. Goodbye.